Welcome to the Dapper Don Podcast. It is your boy Dapper Don Dez, and we are here to discuss the hip-hop culture and the world surrounding hip-hop. Man, been going for a minute, back off hiatus, back like I never left. You know how I like to do it. And, man, we're going to talk about today one, the Black Effect Podcast Network. That's Charlamagne the Guy, man. He done put together an all-star cast. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Kanye's rant. Kanye apparently has came up with the 8-step guideline to how contracts should be. We're going to talk about it. I don't know much about music contracts. I'm sure you're not necessarily a music lawyer, but we just going to go through it and give our 10 cents because that's what we do. And we're going to also talk about Matt Stafford penning a letter. I don't really get into sports. I would love to talk about, certain things I see the Jaguars do. Like our game against Tennessee. I was actually impressed, even though we lost by 3 points. Had we not did the onside kick before the half, I think we would have actually. I'm not going to get into it. We're going to talk about Matt Stafford, though. We're going to definitely talk about Matt Stafford. And, we're going to see some other little small stuff we can talk about. I ain't going to say small stuff, but we'll save it for later on. But the first one that I had to talk about, it needed to be addressed right now, and that is the Black Effect Podcast. See, the Black Effect Podcast is by Charlamagne the Guy. Charlamagne the Guy has made a decision to take it upon himself to get a collective of artists, but popping podcasts that have been pushing the culture. And I was talking about, when I say push the culture, we talking about, I know he has All the Smoke podcast. That's Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson, I don't know if y'all up on Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson be giving all of the game on the gram. He talks about relationships. He talks about having, baby mamas. He talks about not how he paid each one of his child's mothers $1 million. Pays his child's mother $1 million a piece. So basically, him and Matt Barnes are both ex-basketball players, and they got a podcast where they smoke and talk. So let me give you the rundown on it. Charlamagne the Guy inked a partnership with iHeartMedia to launch the Black Effect Podcast Network, anchored by his own syndicated radio show, The Breakfast Club. The Black Effect Podcast Network is slated to debut this fall with 18 podcasts on iHeartRadio, curated by Charlamagne the Guy. According to iHeartRadio, the venture is positioned to become the world's largest podcast publisher dedicated to Black listeners and voices in the Black community. Okay. So they have Jess Hilarious. They have Tamika Mallory. She does like the Black Lives Matter. They're going to have Tamika Mallory on there. They're going to have TV host and attorney Ebony K. Williams. She's on State of the Culture. Now, this is interesting. Hold on. We running past this one. I never stopped thinking about this. So Ebony K. Williams is on Joe Budden's State of the Culture. And now she has a deal with Charlamagne. I don't know if y'all been keeping up with it, but Charlamagne and Joe Budden have been going at it, right? So Joe Budden, there's been this alleged smear campaign against Joe Budden to say that he's beating women and he messes around with dogs. And I can't tell you if he messes with dogs or not or beats women. I can't speak to this, but he has denied it for years. And he feels as if Charlamagne may be behind this notorious smear campaign. And, Charlamagne has thrown his shots at Joe. It's not like Charlamagne has just been quiet. He's had, really, I think Andrew Schultz instigated this whole thing. If I'm being honest, I think Andrew Schultz instigated the whole thing, but, brothers is going to beef with each other. But I wonder how that's going to work out with Ebony K. Williams, because Joe is petty Joe is petty by nature, and Charlamagne says because he's a Cancer, he's also petty. So we're going to see how that work out with Ebony K. Williams. They got the Drink Tramps. They got the 85 South Show, man. Now, if you got the 85 South Show, you got really all I think you need to have a successful network. 85 South Show, when they on the road, them boys do numbers, man. They are hilarious. 85 South Show is DC Young Fly, Carlos Miller, and Chico Bean. If you're in the hip-hop space, you already know who they are, but they are comedians. But each one is kind of different. Like Carlos is just traditional stand-up comedian. Chico Bing is just like this witty improv kind of guy. Like he can just go off the top of his head. Funniest thing ever. And DC Young Fly was more of like an internet sensation. But each one like dabbles in all three kind of fields, and they got popular on Nick Cannon's Wildin' Out. They're a hilarious trio, bro. It's funny. Additionally, the party's plan for the Black Effect Podcast Network to produce limited series in conjunction with creators, music artists, actors, sports stars to support their up-and-coming films, music releases, and related projects. Blackness has an immediate cultural shifting effect on everything, Charlamagne the God said in a statement. Blackness controls the cool. Blackness is the culture. But black voices are not monolithic. The only way to appreciate the diversity of thought and experience in black culture is to build a platform for those voices to be heard. The vision for the Black Effect Podcast Network, he added, is to amplify, elevate, empower emerging and established talent. Our goal is to shift the narrative from black culture, from black creators signing transitional deals to instead forming legacy partnerships that build generational wealth while allowing each creative to have, a stake in their future. Blah, 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 whatever. One time for using big words here. New York best time seller. Anyway, so what's the meat and potatoes? What does this have to do with you? Why am I telling you about this? Well, one, not only is it going to be amazing, is it going to be cool? Let me say it. It's going to be cool. I don't want to give it an amazing already because I don't know how it's going to work out, what's the landscape going to look like, or if it's going to look any different than it already looks. I think this is just me as an young up-and-coming black podcaster who speaks on black culture. I think he should also give opportunity to other up-and-coming names. I think the names such as mine, he's going to have out a Horrible Decisions podcast. He's going to have people there who already, get their bread and butter from who don't necessarily have their bread and butter coming from podcasts. He's going to give them an opportunity. But I think that there should be more of a space for young creators such as myself to be given a brighter light and a brighter place to be, exposed. Because when you're just in the podcast world, you have one from radio drama, people telling and acting out stories. You have another one where you have other ones that seem to really just be some middle of the road type of podcast. As far as our podcast, like when you say you're a hip hop podcast, most of the studios I go to are the places I go to promote mine. When I go to link up with people, I'm the only black podcaster there, or the only one that does hip hop, right? But I know there's a lot of people who want to be in this space. So I think that is dope that he has this space, that it has an opportunity. But I'm pretty sure, he's a savvy guy. There's going to be opportunity for forward momentum. I'm keeping my eyes on it. I even set myself a goal. I don't know what the financial benefit of it is. So, of course, I'm watching out for that, but I don't know what the financial benefit. Man, I wouldn't mind being on the Black Effect podcast. So I just kind of set that as a goal in my mind. Like, yo, get on these people's radar. There's people out here who's looking to curate things that you're doing. So just keep at it, man, because it does feel like you're talking to the wind sometimes when you're doing this podcasting thing. So, I'm happy to hear it, and I hope you go check it out, man. You check out All the Smoke podcast, Ebony K. Williams podcast, the 85 South Show podcast, man, everybody's podcast, everything that those, creators are creating, and the Joe Budden Network. I don't know if you noticed, if y'all seen this week's episode that dropped, he had, at the bottom of the screen, he had Joe Budden Network this time. So I'm guessing that's how he... I guess that's how he feel, man. That's always good. So that's good. But let's talk about changing the narrative, right? That's kind of what we did. We talked about changing the narrative in podcasting and fighting against the power there. Well, it seems like we're in a renaissance in every space of entertainment. And we got to take it to Kanye West, man. Kanye West made some very cryptic statements. And I'm going to read them for you. I'm not going to get into the salacious stuff well, first I do have to acknowledge he told Drake and J. Cole, they going to have to bow down to the king. They're going to have to give the king an apology. So this could be stemming from Well, J. Cole made a reference to him on False Prophet. On False Prophet, he spoke on, drama. He spoke on having problems with an artist who just so full of himself, and everybody alluded to that being about Kanye. And then on this recent song, well, Drake took shots on Sicko Mode. Drake took shots on Checks Over Stripes. He took shots at Ye on that one. He even took shots at this one on Laugh Now, Cry Later. I can't remember the line right now, but he definitely took shots at him. But we're going to get you exactly what you came to see, though. And as far as him saying that he wants them to apologize, but he also kind of but the thing that makes that interesting is he also admitted that when he was talking to Mace, when he was dealing with Mace, that he took shots at Mace, saying that don't leave while you're hot. That's how Mace screwed up. Well, now he feel like this is the next generation taking shots at him, like the same way he dissed Mace, because Mace came out after Kanye demanded a full-on apology. Mace came out and said, well, if they owe you an apology, then you owe me and my people an apology. Yeah, he said that you owe me and my people an apology, and I can't say that he's wrong. That makes a lot of sense if you're thinking about it from the point of you telling Drake, okay, you taking these shots at me, but he said, Kanye made a statement, I'm the king of that oil, can I get away with this kind of line? So when you start adding that into you saying you want an apology, it's like, so he apologized to Mace. He agreed with Mace. He said, Mace is right, I do owe him an apology. That line was too far. But did you apologize because you really felt sorry, or are you just apologizing because now it fits the narrative? Now you're the old guy. You're the old washed guy now. Is that why you're doing it? Because Kanye is washed. I don't care what nobody tell you. He is washed. King of washed. Washed, rinse cycle. He is out of here. But anyway, he did at least make some very good points. So let me run this down to you. Kanye West calls for artists to unify while laying out potential future contract guidelines. So music record deal guidelines. And here's my problem. He should have been working on this while he was busy running for president, while he was busy trying to run a clothing label. Your clothes don't slap. You're not a leader. This is what you should have been doing. See, had Kanye kept fighting this fight, it would make sense. You could be a rebel with a cause with this one. Kanye West has been on a crusade to remake the music business, get his masters back, and terminate his contract with Universal and Sony. Following a series of meetings with the lawyer and label higher-ups, Kanye laid out how he imagined future artist contracts to look on Twitter Rant Sunday. This was September 20th. This is yesterday. Kanye put forth what he believes to be the 5 pillars of music being recording, publishing, touring, merchandising, name, and likeness. Name and likeness is together. So that's pretty much, he divided the contracts into 8 guidelines and this is from Hip Hop DX. He divided the contracts into 8 guidelines, with the first being artists owning their own recording and leasing them on a year-by-year basis to labels, and the second being an 80-20 split between the artist and the publisher. All right, so here's rule 1, and we're going to go through it one at a time and really break down what it is we're looking at. Rule 1, artists own a copyright, or one guideline, not rule, but guideline. Guideline. Artist owns the copyright in the recording and the songs and lease them to the record labels, publishers for a limited term, 1-year deals. All right, so now here's the question. What defines the artist, right? Because who owns it? Is it the artist, the one recording it, the one that wrote it, the one that produced it? And if that's the case, you could say, well, yeah, that's a split sheet. Who's ever on that split sheet is considered an artist. But can the producer also lease? And then if that's the case, who pays for the production? Who's going to pay the producer to make the beats? Who's going to pay the engineer to engineer? Because you thinking, well, Des, it don't take that long to make one hit record. You're right. It takes 15 minutes to make one hit record. But the creative process of recording hit records, it takes years. Dre said you're going to make the hardest and easiest thing to do is make a hit record. You just have to constantly stick with it. That's just kind of how that thing goes. So the artist owns the copyright in the recording. If he didn't pay for the copyright, I'm not even arguing on a label point of view. I'm just looking at it business-wise. Like, let's say Lil Baby, right? Lil Baby didn't take rap serious, so you got P from QC. P is a record label. P and Coach K are record labels. Is it fair that they've invested all this money in this artist, and now you got the copyrights to the song, and all you are is just the voice on it? So who becomes the owner, though? And who gets to sign and deal? Because if it's at that point, every song is its own contract. Every song will have to be its own contract. Every song will have to have its own masters. Because if Metro Boomin, let's say DJ Mustard makes a song, his voice isn't on the song. DJ Khaled's voice isn't on the song. So is it DJ Khaled's song now? So let's say DJ Khaled want to sell of Going Hard featuring T-Pain and Kanye. Does he own the copyrights? Or do you own the copyrights? Because you're the artist and he's technically the executive. Because Khaled owns the record label that's recording the song, but he's technically the artist. You see how you see why I'm confused? And I'm sure Ye has his answers. I just don't. All right, second one. The record label publisher is a service provider that receives a share of the income for a limited time. The split can be 80-20 in the artist's favor. If I'm profiting 20%, I'm giving you 20%. I'm doing 20% effort. And this makes sense. Don't get me wrong. This makes a lot of sense, but you're not going to make superstars with this. This should be a contract he's offering. Good music should offer this. If he wants to do this, tell every artist, listen, I'm willing to put money behind you. I'm going to build this whole machine with A&Rs, with producers and writers. I'm going to get all of that together, and I'm only going to get 20%. I'm going to come up with your direction. I'm going to come up with the photo shoot. Because if you was already doing all of that, then you have nothing. They have no ground to argue with you. The same way with Master P and No Limit. All right, what's this? The rest, though, is in the dependents and lawyers' involvement in deals, which he feels should be to make more profitable for the artist and not so complex. This is an interesting one. I like this one. 3, dependents. Artists must be dependent on no one but themselves to manage their catalog. You should not need no one else to understand the business you're in. What's technically your catalog? Because if me and Metro Boomin made 18 hit records, Metro Boomin has 18 hit records, I have 18 hit records. What becomes mine? So okay, let's keep it simple. I'm the music, right? I own all the music. I did all that myself. If I'm controlling my catalog, that means that I have to find if your music gets played in a bar, you know your old royalties, right? Your old publishing. There's a reason why you have a publishing company to go get your money. And you pay them a lot of money to go find your money for you because you just don't have time. And Sir Mix-a-Lot made a good point. He said it's just a little different, but this is good though. This is good. I like this one, but it's more of a challenge for the artist. I know BMI offers certain educational courses, but I think that he's giving you better rules for you to move. This is a veteran really giving the artist game, more so than the actual music industry. He's really giving the artist game and also me game because as a podcaster, it's still audio at the end of the day. I can recreate and record audio, so it's in the same field. 4, lawyers. The first thing that changed about the record deal is actual lawyers. We need plain English contract. A lawyer role is to improve deals, not to charge for contracts we cannot understand or track. Rewrite deals to be understood from first read. I remember Remy Ma was on State of the Coach and she said that you want your contract to be as simple as possible, one page, especially if you're the one with leverage. If you got leverage, man, go for it. So I definitely agree with that one. I like my contract simple too, but also when you get into being too simplistic, lawyers are still going to lawyer. And a part of being a lawyer is finding things and twisting it and arguing that, no, this means this and this means that. So you're putting yourself in a tough position. 5, equity and blanket licensing are the majority of future new income. Ooh, he put me on something new here. Let me see what blanket license. If you're with a major, you have invested your song and shared in their power to get equity in deals. Almost all new deals now are based on all songs going to a store or app. The equity is in the artist. Equity and blanket license are the majority of future new income. Advances are just loans. On artists re-signing these, stop. Advances are loans with 75% interest rates or worse. No other business in the world takes a look at the business, buy shares, start the profit when it profits. Record companies have to buy into you, not loan you. Okay. But that was kind of all right. So I guess that's why that's guidelines. Okay, so this makes sense. He's saying that, these advances that record companies have to buy into you and not loan you. But I forget what it was. I was watching this documentary that was explaining, I believe MTV made it, explain what the $1 million record deal actually breaks down to. That's like $600, you get your car, you get your chain, you get your, a house, blah, 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 whatever you got going on in your life. You start getting all of these extravagant things, right? You start getting all these extravagant things. And that $1 million is gone so quickly. That $1 million breaks down to $250,000 after a handful of stuff. And this is back when $1 million was a lot more money. So if you looking at that, man, but anyway, the thing said that an advance check was supposed to be for the artist to live off of while you're recording the music. That's what an advance was supposed to be. I always thought an advance was all the money you will ever see off of your album. I know you got to recoup. So maybe that's what he means. Because you do have to recoup that money. So 6, royalties. Again, back to dependents. You need a business manager to read how you did, so you pay to see your money. No more. Royalties portals need to show and do not now every song you delivered, every store you're in, how many streams per song, income per song. Somebody's got to pay for that. That seems possible, though. That does seem possible, because if you was to put up, because now you also got to think not just what stores you in. If you have, a music video on YouTube, that's money. That generates wealth. Are you keeping track of that? Are you keeping up with that? Because that could, clearly you could recoup off of just, you might, if you got like another 100,000 to go to recoup off of, you might find that YouTube paid for that already. Or what about ringtones? What about, a lot of stuff. So yeah, he's right, but you're going to have to hire somebody to do that for you. But I'm sure you can. I'm really sure you can. And 7, portals are not just for royalties. They are for your entire business. Every audio file, every asset, every deal stored with the money. Money and music must stay together. When your term's in, download it all, leave. You're not giving the labels no leverage. But because it's Kanye, we all think that Kanye's crazy. He lost me on that one. So basically, I'm saying a portal. Because every audio file, every asset, every deal stored with the money. Money and music stays together. Money and music stays together. How does it separate? I don't know. Kind of confused with that. Kanye finished off his tirade by promising that he would be able to get his masters back, but is calling for all artists to unify with him so they can also be treated fairly. This is a call for all artists to unify. I will get my masters. I got the most powerful lawyer in music, and I can afford them, but every artist must be freed and treated fairly. So, There you go. There you go. But one time for Kanye. Kanye is definitely an intelligent brother. He's a smart brother, and it's definitely sound like he knew more about it than I did. I guess a portal kind of be like how you check your hours for work. I guess that's what he wants for music. Although, who has access to these algorithms? Because if I have access to this algorithm, I can use this raw data just to determine what you're worth instead of actually looking at the actual product. Even though, according to what I'm hearing from a lot of people, that's how music works anyway. They're just going to look at raw data. They're not going to look at like, man, you the hottest in the streets right now. So, what else? What else? So I also wanted to talk about the boy Eminem, man. It seems like we're in a space right now. It seems like we're definitely in a space where we're in a space that, like I said, Kanye talking about a renaissance with the music industry. Charlemagne coming up with his own thing for the podcasting world. It seems like the sports world has a quarterback that's speaking up. And we say superstar quarterbacks have to speak up. We always thought it was going to be a black quarterback. We always thought it was going to be a black athlete. But we see that that's not true. Matt Stafford penned a very heartfelt essay called "We Can't Just Stick to Football." And the reason why it's related here is because Eminem actually saluted the Detroit quarterback and told him that, I'm proud that you put that out there, that you said this. It's a very eye-opening thing for him. And also for me too, because when it comes to racism, I'm sure the notion is that all black people fully understand the problem of racism in this country. And I probably understand it better than most Americans, but there's some who just experience it on a higher level. Like, I grew up in middle class. Wasn't, I don't want to say it was silver spoon, but stepfather had a job with the city. Mom owned her own business. Like, we were working class black people. And because we lived in a subdivision, and it was a predominantly black subdivision, and still is to this day, we kind of had our free run of things, right? You could stay out as long as you want. You could just, hang out, play ball. You could do whatever. There was like no rules. But when it came time for us to get old enough to leave the subdivision, get at age 15, 16, restrictions started coming along that we wasn't prepared for. Like, let's say there's 4 white boys, right? They all getting their dad truck ride out, no problem. 4 kids, like any kid, let's not even make them guys or white. Just any kids outside of young black boys. They go hang out at the mall, that's fine. So, kids are monkey see, monkey do. I'm going to call my friends. If Chet, Brian, John, and Joseph can go hang out, why can't me, Darius, Tyrone, and Jamal, we all go load up in a car. We thinking we finna go have fun. We gonna go to the mall. We gonna talk to girls. We gonna get phone numbers. We gonna do all of that. We go to get in the car. It's like, hold up, wait. All y'all not going in that car together. Y'all not finna give the police no reason to even stop you. And at the time when we was younger, because even though we all came from different places, we wasn't raised in the subdivision. A lot of us went there like at 10, 12, 13 years old. But we were still green to life. We were still kids. And by being like that, by being so, like I said, green to life, we just thought they was overreacting. We was like, what? You're tripping. You tripping. Everybody else does it. And you don't get what they're trying to tell you and what they're trying to, prepare your mind for. Because I'm like, police don't bother anybody. Real talk, like when I would hear about people say the police beat somebody up, first thing I said, what did that person do? It wasn't until these videos started coming out that I was like, man, there's some people who's really getting roughed up out here. I can't say I have been profiled for sure. When you walk in a store, when you're like 6, 7 years old, you already expect it. By that time, I never walk into a store and not expect to be followed. Like I'm about to steal something. It's weird if it doesn't happen. So, not all of us know about racism. Not all of us are informed. I can only imagine how tough and how much of a culture shock it could be for somebody who didn't think racism existed at all. At all. But for those who are finding out about it, Matt Stafford being one of them, he's really standing up. And on the Players Tribune, he posted a very interesting essay. And it's called "We Can't Just Stick to Football" by Matt Stafford. Listen, I love game of football. I love it. But there are some things that are way more important than football right now. Yes, the NFL season just kicked off, and nobody's more excited about that than me. But we can't just move on from the issues of racial injustice and use sports as a distraction. We can't just stick to football. Not as a team, not as an organization, and we shouldn't as a country. My proudest day as a Detroit Lion was the afternoon that we came together as a team and decided that we were going to cancel our practice in the wake of Jacob Blake's shooting. We had some extremely difficult conversations. We shared stories. We debated. We cried. We were vulnerable. We were uncomfortable. We were angry. We were everything. We can't just stick to football, not as a team, but we went through it all as a team. As most everyone knows, I haven't exactly embraced social media over the years. It's just not me. But I feel it's right to take the time to say what's on my heart as beginning this new season together as a team. And what's on my heart is that we all need to come together as a country and admit what we all know is real. Deep down inside, no matter what political party we support or what we do for a living, we know what's real. Police brutality, white privilege, racism, it's all real. It's time we stop pretending or defending or just closing our eyes to what's right in front of us. We have to listen. We have to keep having these hard conversations. And it's not like this is just our history. This is right now. These are not political problems. These are human problems. It should not be seen as a political statement to discuss this stuff honestly. And I'm sure there are people out there who simply don't want to hear it. But let me just tell you a quick story. Shortly after the George Floyd was killed, I was down in Atlanta doing my all-season workout. It was obviously complicated because of COVID. So I had arranged to use a field where I could do some work with my receivers. The first one who could make it to Atlanta was Danny Amendola. Danny and I spent 4 days working together. No problem at all. It was great. A week later, I went to do the same thing at the same field with 4 of my black teammates. We were just starting to dump all the footballs out on the field, and some of the guys were still stretching when a gentleman came out and told us that we were trespassing and had to leave immediately. We didn't even have our cleats on yet. I remember standing in there in my socks, just kind of stunned and confused, like, what? But he didn't even want to listen. We were still gathering up the footballs and tried to figure out another spot where we might be able to go to when the gentleman pulled out his cell phone. He said, "I'm calling the police." After everything that we've witnessed over the last few months and how situations can escalate for no reason at all, and here the police are being called. We were there for maybe 10 minutes total. Nobody said a bad word to him. And he still called the police and told them that we were being uncooperative and not leaving the property. Obviously, we got out of there immediately. I was embarrassed to have put my teammates in that situation, especially when I was told that it was cool to use the field. especially when I had been on the same field with Danny with no problems. The only difference is what we all know in our heart. Danny and I are white. We did not get the cops called on us in these situations. We did not immediately get called uncooperative. And if Danny and I somehow did get the cops called on us, we all know how that interaction would have gone. Hey, what are you doing here? Okay, well, move along now. Have a good day. It's just a different dynamic. It's just the reality of this country, and it's okay to talk about it. Situations that I take for granted are different for my black teammates, and I'm learning just how deep this goes every single day. After Jacob Blake's incident happened, our team came together and guys shared some very emotional, raw stories of their experience. The level of trauma that guys and their families were feeling, really feeling, was just so deep. Multiple guys were saying how whenever they would leave their homes to go to the facility, their parents were begging them to text them as soon as they arrived and as soon as they got home, just to know that they were safe. That's the level of trauma you feel as a parent when you see these videos and instantly think, that could be my kid. But the one story that stuck with me so much was when Trey Flowers talked about how he copes with the anxiety of dealing with the police. Trey was explaining that if he were to ever get pulled over in his car, something I have experienced many times without even thinking twice about it, he would roll down his window, put both hands on the wheel, and ask the officer if he would like him to step out of the car so he can handcuff him. Just so that he's not seen as a threat. Just so the officer can't say, oh, he was reaching here, he was reaching there. Just so he can make it back home. If you're a white person, all I'm saying to you to do is to really think about that. Imagine that being your first instinct when you see police lights in your rearview mirror. No one in America shall feel this way. Listen, I'm not some perfect person. I'm not trying to lecture everyone. I've made a million mistakes. I've grew up in Highland Park, Texas, which is probably one of the most privileged places in the country. It's a place that I still love very much, but it's a bubble. That's just a fact. I was exposed to a lot of diversity and different ideals growing up. I was not educated on these issues, and I probably said a bunch of stupid things when I was young that I regret. But a big part of life is about looking inside yourself and trying to evolve as a person. And when you hear your teammates telling these stories and getting so emotional that they're breaking down crying, you can't just sit there and be silent. These were the same guys who had supported me last offseason during the darkest months of my life when my wife was diagnosed with a brain tumor. It was still very hard for me to talk about, honestly. But I would just say that when you're going through hell like that, you're still trying to be the quarterback of an NFL team and a guy who people can rely on. You absolutely cannot do it alone. I would come into facilities at 5 a.m. and try to get my work in, and then I'll leave to go be with my wife just as the guys were coming in for meetings. I remember passing my teammates in the hallway on my way out to the car, and they would never once looked at me like I was letting them down. It was always, we got you. There's anything we can do to help. Is there anything you need? We're praying for you. This is what it means to be a part of a brotherhood. You have your brother's back when they're in pain. You listen to them. You try to help. I wish that we could do that as a country. And, and Matt definitely, and Matt definitely kept going. He said, ask yourself hard questions, but more than anything, listen, it's time. One thing I guess a lot of this is teaching us is just how much, because like when I'm reading that, like I told you before I started reading that, it's certain things that I just expect to happen. I just kind of expect for that to happen. And a lot of us grew up in places where our elders told us, well, what do you expect? What you think would happen. And that mentality kind of leaves you to feel like it's right that it's happening to you. Even though it's not a matter of wrong or right, it's just a matter of what it is. But sometimes what it is has to be addressed and has to be pushed back against. And, so kudos to Matt Stafford for speaking on that. I didn't know about his wife's brain tumor. I definitely know he was going through that. And, him speaking up there, and glad his teammates had his back, and, he's coming together. And this is just what it is when there's mutual respect. See, that seems to be the problem, right? Because when we speak on white privilege, it's a double-edged sword for me, right? Because I don't want anybody who's worked hard for something to feel like I'm wagging a finger in their face. Like, I know you had to work for it. I'm working too. I get it. But there's the dynamic of white privilege to me. Once again, like I said, I need to listen too. Because there's certain people going through stuff that I'm not going through. It's people who have certain traumas and anxieties that's mixed with a lot of different stuff. And, it's something that all of us have to listen to. All of us have to hear. Same way it is with sexism, same way it is with homophobia, the same way with anything else. We all have to listen. When it comes to white privilege, like, I remember watching a Vice News documentary about a town in New Jersey. And in the mayor of this town, and towns aren't really big in New Jersey. They're about the size of 2-3 neighborhoods, truth be told. Well, compared to Jacksonville anyway. But he said, look, man, I can pull it up for you right now. We pull over black people, white people, and Hispanic people equally. 30%, 30%, 30%, 33, 33, 33. And the other 1%, I don't know. Dogs. I don't know. But they pull over the same amount. It's split right into 3. And the guy made a good point. He said, well, even if that's the case, how is a minority percentage being pulled over? Because one, you still saying you pulling over minorities 66% of the time. So there's that. But also, how are you pulling over a population of people that make up 13% an equal amount of time? Equal amount of time to their 60% counterpart. To not even 60, 70% counterpart white people. That's a privilege to not have to undergo that. I remember I was talking to a dude, man, we got in a real heated debate. It was a guy I worked with. He was a super cool cat. He was all right, but he was a white guy. He was he was an immigrant too. That's crazy. He was an immigrant from Ireland, I believe, but he came here so young, like he had no accent. Just seemed like a regular white guy, honestly. But he came over and we was talking, and I said, well, is that really fair that they pull over black people more? And he was like, well, let's be honest. The most dangerous neighborhoods are black. And I said, so because there's an unkept neighborhood with people that reside that look like me, it makes sense to stop me. But these are the same people who bash, liberal white people who say, well, you got all these white mass shooters, we should take away guns. And the first thing they say is, well, that's not fair. You can't go off of how somebody looks. And it's like, well, isn't that white privilege? Why have my rights been violated? Because you can find somebody who looks like me, according to you, and that justifies how you treat us in a whole, but yet you wouldn't want to be treated like that. You wouldn't. It's just a simple fact of disrespect and treating somebody like a human being. And the thing that's worse about it is nobody wants to be racist these days. See, because back in the day, they was just pretty much overt about it. If I didn't like you, I didn't like you. Now they want to be so discreet about it. And at times, that sometimes makes it worse, and that makes it harder. That makes it harder to really, point out who's who and who does what. So, I appreciate what Matt Stafford was talking about. Him, just coming out and, him just coming out and speaking on what he felt and what he saw. And once again, it's his opinion. That's the beauty of it all. It's his opinion. It's his place. It's where his mind's at, man. I wish his wife healing. And, I appreciate him standing up. Appreciate Eminem standing up. Because he gets a lot more backlash than props for what he's doing. He's still standing in the paint for it. To this day. And this is new. I don't know if y'all know this. I grew up listening to Eminem. Eminem didn't do this. Eminem wasn't ever pro-black. Ever. He was against being racist, but he was never pro-black, not like this. So, everybody swore as he got older, he would, like when he was 25, it was like, oh, well, by the time he's 50, he's going to show you his true colors. And if that's the case, we see what they are. So kudos to both of them. Kudos to everybody on the front lines fighting for this. And, that's it. That's it. Keep the fight alive. But in the next week, it is your boy Dapper Don Dez. I am out.